Hey everyone, welcome to week 4. At the end of this week, you'll be halfway through your very first class, which is pretty exciting. I hope you've enjoyed the reading so far and the interactions that you've had. You've been very lively on the discussion board, and I've really enjoyed reading your papers and the thoughtful reflections that you've had. I know it's really challenging trying to summarize some of these things and your thoughts and your own experiences into one page uh, when there's so many different things to think about, but I appreciate the efforts that you've done with those, and I've learned so much about you and the ways that you're thinking and experiencing this class, and that I really appreciate that. This week, one of the things I wanted to let you know I'm going to be doing a little bit differently on the discussion board this week is going to focus a little bit on APA in your posts. So that means my comments will be largely centered on anything I see about APA formatting that's not quite right. I am doing that not to shame anyone, but really to make sure that everyone is able to see what's right, what needs to be changed as far as formatting goes, because the discussion boards are public, and if you don't know what I'm saying to other individuals privately, but this week you will be able to see any corrections that need to be made on anyone's posts related to APA. You've made really good progress in this area. I know it's very challenging to get the hang of at first, but I'm really focused a lot on APA because I've taught classes later in the program where people were still struggling, so I really want to help you get this down at the beginning to where it's just kind of second nature, and that you only have to really look up things that are unusual. Anyway, enough about that. This week's readings, I think you'll enjoy. The Haslam book is going to be talking about in-group prototyping, it's a really interesting chapter. I think as you read it, I'd encourage you to think about our current political situation in the United States and some of the key players. And I think what you'll see is some of the things described in the book are very prevalent in the way our political system and parties and attitudes are at this point in time. As you read it too, think, is this true for my workplace? Is this true for the leadership that I am experiencing now, or me as a leader? I think it's a great chapter for doing some reflection. Also this week, Lowney is going to be writing about the spiritual exercises and how the Jesuits have so much formation through the spiritual exercises. And I know there's several of you, most of you are not Catholic, I'm not Catholic. Most of you maybe have not that much spiritual background, and really that's it. It is the point for the Jesuits, but it's not really the point of the chapter. The point is to have a way of regularly thinking about, reflecting on who you are and what you're accomplishing. And so just read it for historical perspective, but then also read it for what could I take away for my own practice of reflection. I wanted to share just a quick little anecdote with you from my own life. This is a personal story, but in the last few weeks I've been thinking about Lowney's concept, or the Jesuit concept, of disordered affections, where anything in our lives that maybe is out of balance or is inordinately affecting our decision making or how we're doing our lives. And I was really pondering this and reflecting on, is there anything in my life? And the thought popped in my head, perhaps my running was something that was disordered. And so I was contemplating this, and as you guys know, I told you I'm training for a half marathon here in Ethiopia, which is next weekend. And then the situation came up at the hospital where my husband is working, where one of his patients was gravely ill and they did not have blood to give her. And there's a bad blood shortage here that causes a lot of very difficult problems. Anyway, it turns out that I had the same blood type as her, and my husband asked me if I would donate blood, really to save this woman's life. And the thought occurred to me, if my affections are disordered, I won't do this because I wouldn't want to give blood right before I'm running a race. So I paused, and of course I realized the most important thing was to be able to help this woman to live. And but it's just interesting to think about these things and how what we're attached to in our lives, how that really impacts our decisions that we make. So, of course, this was not a very nuanced situation for me. The choice was obvious, but a lot of things that happen for us where we realize, oh, maybe my priorities are out of line, or maybe I'm too attached to this. They may be a little bit more subtle. I think in the other article this week about opposable thumbs, or really the integrative thinking, I think what you'll see is that in order to be able to think that way, we have to have some level of indifference or not have too many disordered affections. Otherwise, we will not be able to kind of hold two opposing ideas at the same time and then come up to a solution that's maybe a synergistic solution of those two ideas. So I really encourage you this week to see how all these chapters weave together. I think there's some nice connections, and I'll be interested to see what your thoughts on all of that are. Take care.